it's Diane the Creative Inkster, and today is Wednesday, March the 1st. Can you believe it? We've moved out of February and spring is just around the corner. I'm excited to share some new products with you today. I'm not sure if you saw my post, but Stampin' Up! Has a brand new segment on the web store called Online Exclusives, and there they will have products that won't go into any publication but will be available to purchase for a limited time so long as supplies last. Here is one of those amazing products called Irresistible Blooms. It's a stamp set with coordinating dies, and I'm going to show you with my project tonight you're going to be using some of these in that project. So that's one. It has matching paper. So I've already opened this pack and used some of the sheets. But there are a couple of returning colors. If you're a Stampin' Up! Aficionado, you know some of the colors like Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock, and they are coming back with this suite. So that's very exciting. Love this paper. Some of the dies in the Irresistible Blooms set, the die set, actually cut out the images in this 6x6 paper. Very cool, very cool. So that's part of the suite. Also part of the suite are these loose frosted dots. So they're a little bit like sequins in that they come many in a package here. There's 360, but they're really easy to grab and glue down. So it's not like they're going to be hard to manage and that, but they're a great value because there's 360 in the package in 3 different colors, and there's no adhesive. You just add your own liquid adhesive to it to make them go, or a little bit of a glue dot. Hi Vicki, hi Brenda. And here's another product in the suite. It's called Naturally Gilded 12x12 Specialty Paper. And there are 3 patterns. I'm going to show you here. I have one already cut up and cut through. So this one is the silver, obviously. Looks like trees, but depending on how you cut it, it could have a whole different look. There's copper. How gorgeous is that? And then there's also a set of gold. So this is more like a meadow maybe look. This is more like sort of branches and tree and flowers and such, and then there's your trees. So the patterns are a little different, and they're all in different foils, but lots of fun. And I'm going to show you in the future some projects made with that. I haven't got that one rolling out for tonight yet. There's a couple of other products. There's a new punch bundle with a leaf in it, and there's a set of 3 embossing folders. Now, for the life of me, I can't find the 3rd one in this stamp room, so I have to go looking for it. But they are a set of 3 that come together, and they're what we're calling basics. So these are like large dots. This is more of a, maybe not even a gingham kind of pattern. It's cross hatches or something like that. But like I said, they're basics. They're just to use without any specific product in mind, but add a nice little texture to your projects. And when I find the 3rd one, I'll let you know. All right, so there's a couple of new things. So you can only get those things on the online store. Yes, the paper's gorgeous, Brenda, I agree. You cannot purchase these things in a catalog. They won't be going into a catalog. With supply chain issues as they are and how Stampin' Up! Brings product in, good to hear, Vicki. I do know, though, it kind of pulls you in. Then they want the ability at Stampin' Up! To change out products, bring new things in that they know that they can manage the distribution of for a time period. So we're going to try this online exclusives and see how that goes. So you just need to go to my website, and I will give you the link to that all the time on my Facebook page and in my communications. But this is the card we're going to play around with tonight. I'm going to do the Splatter Technique over here, which you can kind of see. I don't want it to go out of focus. And it's very interesting. It's very simple, but it's also kind of fun. So I made this card designed by Allison Okamitsu from Alberta, in a class that she ran and I took, and we're going to kind of replicate it with these new products. So let's get started. We need a card base. So I'm going to cut this to 5.5. So it's 8.5 by 11. I cut it to 5.5, so I now have 2 card bases. I'm going to flip it over and score at 4.25. And yeah, I could have scored it first and then both card bases would have been scored, but don't always do that. All right, and let's get the other pieces over here. They're just outside my reach. There we go. We're going to grab, this is for the labels. We'll set that aside. This is some of that paper. And I'm not going to use this side because I'm going to die cut one of the flowers out. I'm going to use the other side. And this is the piece of white. So the white's 4 by 5.25, and this is what's going to go on the front layer and what we're going to do our splattering with. Let's find my, oh, I think my bone folder has flown the coop. Okay. And then this is going to be the one we're going to do the splatter technique on. I've got some scrap so saffron, which kind of goes with this paper, and the pattern paper measures 1.5 by 5.25. So once you cut that 3/4 inch strip off of your 6 inch of your paper, which, hang on, works great on the bottom of a card on the inside, at 1.5 you get 4 strips out of a sheet. So really a frugal way to use it. All right, so we're going to work on this piece here first. I'm going to grab Flirty Flamingo. You can use a sponge or a blending brush. We have 2 sizes. I only have the regular size, but there are small blending brushes available now. And I'm just going to see how pink this is. No, it's good. I noticed it has some pinky purple on the back side of it. So we're going to add this to the 4 by 5.25 inch piece of white. Now, one of the things about this is that you don't need to do it all the way across because we're going to put a piece of pattern paper down the side. So we really only need to go over here, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker on the right than halfway across. So let's get some scratch paper in here so don't mess up my nice new piece. So whenever you're using these blending brushes, the one thing you don't want to do is stick your brush right down on your paper immediately. You want to move in from the outside. Otherwise, you end up with a big blotch like that, and you may not want that. You have to kind of cover that up. So you come in off the side, and it's pretty inky, it's pretty dark. That's okay. That's going to make those splatters look really good. And then you just move it around, and you will find, because you come in off the edge, you'll have a nice darkened up edge. That just really adds to it. So we're going to go over, and I'm keeping some space on the white open. And part of the reason for that too is once you've got ink on paper, sometimes the adhesive doesn't want to stick nicely. So we're just going to leave that. I'm not going to bother to cover more because, as you can see, that's going to cover it right up nicely. So before we add this down, because we don't want it to get wet, we are going to do our splattering. So I have the water painters from Stampin' Up, and they come in a 3-pack. They have different tips on them on how thick they are. One's more like a thick paintbrush, and you just put water in them, and there you go. I have also used alcohol in them too, rubbing alcohol. If you don't have a water painter, just grab a regular old paintbrush. This is one that's probably a little thicker than I would want to use on this. Dip it in water and whoopsie, tap it. Don't let it go flying off out of your hand. So yeah, I do need to kind of start this a little bit. So I'm going to try to get the water flowing a little bit. There we go. And then you can either tap it on your finger, or you can tap it on a pen, or this is a little blending pen. And the more water that comes out, or you stick on the end of your paintbrush, the larger your dots are going to be. But what you'll see as you start to do this, I'm just getting this a little bit more. I'm going to push a little bit more to get more water coming through. There we go. Once you get this going through, your dots will start to dry. That's probably enough. You could always go back in with your sponging if you like. You can heat it up to dry it if you really, really want to. But what you're going to see as it dries, I've got a couple of big blotches. That's a big blotch right there, which is fine. It's going to be covered up. What you'll see is you'll begin to get these like lines and splotches where the ink is being erased a little bit. So we're going to give it that a few minutes there to dry completely. And then I'm going to pull in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and we're going to do the centerpiece. So to replicate this one, rather than the actual big circle, I'm going to use this new die in the new bundle, Hello Irresistible, or Irresistible Blooms. And this will fit through here because it's less than 3 inches wide, or just about 3 inches wide. So it'll go through this just fine. And what you'll see is that this does not cut out the actual circle part. It cuts out all the other bits. I'm going to show you how you're can cut it out and then just turn it into a layer. And it just ever so fits on there. So let's run this through. It's catching on a little bit on the paper there. There we go. And once we get the cutaway pieces out of the way, just by flicking them or using your scissors, this is what you're left with. So whatever piece for your layer that you do this on, you'll have this opening like that. But I'm going to show you how I cut this off. Grab my scissors. And what I found was there's about like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little spots that attach to the paper on the outside rim. And I'm just going to snip them off because once this goes on the paper and all the other pretty stuff is there, no one's going to notice that they're not rounded on the edges. Or I'm not going to worry about it. So there we go. There's our beautiful piece. Now, had I put it through with some adhesive sheet on beforehand, it would have that all on the backing. But so we almost dry, not quite. Okay, the next thing we want to do is some other cutouts, and this is kind of what else you're left with. You have this funky shape, which you could re-punch out for something from the center of this die. Sometimes it's hard to tell with the dies if they cut right out or if they only do a piece. Then we're going to take the paper. Where did I put that? It's hiding here on my huge table. Get this out of the way. Oh, it is hiding. It's totally hiding. All right, I had cut the pieces out. That's okay. We can cut some more. So as I mentioned, some of the patterns in the paper will cut out. So we have, oh, here they are, hiding on the bottom of the paper pad. So this piece here has the leaves that the dies cut out, which is kind of neat. So you don't have to do stamping or heat embossing or anything like that. It'll look great. So if you grab your die that coordinates, there's one that cuts this piece, and I believe there's the other one that does the two, which I may have out for something else. But then there's these other dies that just use regular paper. So we're going to cut this triple one here, and then we're also going to take one of the flower shapes out of one of the other pattern papers. This does the small flower and the large flower, and this will just go on like this, and it will cut that flower out. So to get this started, I'm just going to cut into my paper where it's not going to make a huge dent. Like I try to keep all that cutting to one side so that I can at least have maybe half the page for something. So there's that piece we need for this. And on this one, I'm going to cut this big one. So out of this paper, you have 4 small of the flowers and 3 of the big flowers. So if you're going to use this for a class or something, or swaps or a whole bunch of cards, think about that, mix and match, because in total you have 7 flowers you can cut out. All right, so let's bring that Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine back in here. and we will do some cutting. So there's our flower and our die. And then we'll line these up and run that through. The other one was a little tight going through because the cardstock was a little wider than 3 inches that I was working with, so it was catching on the edges a little bit. There's the flower, and then we can cut out the leaf. Just stick your paper on there, grab this. There we go. So I see that one of the comments is grayed out, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that you're not hearing me and I'm just talking to myself or what that is. But very strange. I'll see when I finish the video and check it out. All right, so then that cut those beautiful leaves out. A lot of times you're going to find that our paper packs are starting to do that with having the paper and dies that coordinate. Okay, so there's our dots. Can you see that? I'm going to try to take a really good picture of it when I put it up as a still photo on my blog and afterwards on Facebook. Okay, so we can stick this piece down. It still has the one spot that's not quite dry. There we go. I think it's dry now. All right, let's add some adhesive to the back. There we go. I know it was kind of criminal to cut into this side with the flowers on it, but there are 4 sheets of each 6 by 6 in the package, so you do get a lot to work with. But I just found that was kind of pretty and less busy with the other things that I wanted to put on here. All right, so then let's add some adhesive to the back. That could have been popped up too. Just gonna glue this straight down. So this is called a splatter technique. Now, if you used on regular cardstock without sponging, just regular cardstock, and you used a little bit of 90 or 70% alcohol, you would get it bleaching out a little bit of that, and you get a different look altogether. So now we're going to put our circle in to cover the idea of this circle here, and then I'm just going to put these on together, and then I'm going to put a greeting on this, and then that's going to finish up our card. But I liked this layout, and I thought, well, it's perfect for using some of these new products. So I'm basically going around and putting my liquid glue, because I didn't use any adhesive sheets ahead of time. I'm putting it on all the big dots, or the bigger dots. I'm not trying to get it on the little lines. That just seems like a lot of extra. Okay, so there we go. Now flip it over, and then let it fall down, and press it down where the dots are without losing its circular shape. And then I'm going to flip it over, and it's a little easier to help the adhesive take when you flip it over and push from the other side. There we go. And then we can add this to the flower, this leaf to the flower. I'll just put a little glue on here. And then I'm going to pop this up. So grab my dimensionals. There we go. And I typically, where I have things put together, I'll put a glue, a dimensional right there so that it can kind of hang on to it and give it a little bit more stability adhering on the card. Could be a wreath. Yeah, it looks just like a wreath die, doesn't it? Here we go. So we'll put this guy here. And then I'm going to stamp a greeting from the set. And I was going to go with, hooray, it's your day. I'm totally low on birthday cards. I mean, that rarely happens. I have lots and lots of thank you and thinking of you and those kind. But I've been using a lot of thank you cards, which is a good thing. However, I need more. So we are going to stamp this. Now, I started though wanting to use this new punch. It's one of the triple punches, so you actually get 6 out of it. So it goes from 1 inch to 3/4 to 1/2 inch that can slide in here, and you get 2 ends, this ticket punch. So you can either have it with more of a scalloped edge or more of what's like a ticket edge, but it takes 1 inch pieces, 3/4 and 1/2 inch paper. So I cut this to 1 inch by about 3.5, 3 and a bit. Let's get the hooray on here. We're going to kind of try to put it to one side. I didn't actually measure exactly how much I need to have on the edge to cut it off, but it should be dry now. Just slide this in there. And then I flip this one over, so when it comes to the end, I can see that it's even at the edge here before I punch. Let's see, did I cut off enough? Or am I going to have, yeah, I'm going to have a little bit too much white. So let's trim this down just a smidge. It doesn't cut off a lot, and I left a lot of white space there. So let's trim this down a wee bit. And we'll try and do the same on the other side. Now, it's going to be a challenge to hold it because now it's super short, right? So we're going to grab a sticky note, and that's going to be what's going to help us get it into the edge. So I'm just going to fold this over, and it's going to be like extending the paper. Yeah, we want to do this one. So I'm going to push this in, and the sticky note is thin enough that it will get in the punch without gumming up the works there. So there we go. That turned out much better. And then carefully peel that off. Flip this around on the other side and do exactly the same thing on the other end. Slide that guy in there. So we have 3 punches, I believe, that are like this. They're a great value because you basically get 6 punches in one. And mix and match, and then that makes them layer one on the other from a height perspective. All right, so tuck that aside. There's our greeting, and that's going to go here with some dimensionals as well. Got to pop it up. Can't just have them flat, have it all flat. Pop this in here. And we can still see our little splatter. And then I'm going to add some of these new jewels. As I mentioned at the top of the video, they're called loose frosted dots. They have no adhesive on them. That's fine. We've got liquid glue. We can make this work. And when I do this, some people, I see them struggle because they try to be picking up the frosted gems or the little gems and then hold them in their hand and put glue on them. No, here's the best way. Just decide where you want them to land. Put your little dab of glue on your paper. And then you can pick these up. So I think I'm going to go with the pink ones this time. They come in couple of different sizes in here too. Now I can use your scissors. I can use my take your pick tool, but I'm waiting for my new putty refill to come. So I don't know how well this is going to grab it, but we'll see. Grab it without keeping it. There we go. And then we'll go in here and we'll get another one. This take your pick tool is really handy. It has this putty end, and like I said, mine is pretty much out, and I've got one on order. Then the other end it comes with is a spatula, which helps you get underneath things when you need to take them apart. A very sharp, pointy end for making little dots, making little holes, picking little things up. And then it also has another head that has 2 scoring size blades. So it's quite a versatile little tool. And you can buy an attachment as a die brush, which goes in the other end, and you can use that with your dies to help get the little pieces out of paper out when you're done die cutting. Alrighty, there's our card. So you're kind of achieving the same thing as if you spritzed it with something. But we're putting the water on first. So kind of a replica of the same card, same idea. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching tonight, and I will see you next Monday when we get together for our Creative Escape again. Have a good evening and have a great weekend. Bye for now.